stream is generally cleaner, but this is just to be safe.
Yeah, cool.
Now the stream is coming on.
Lovely.
All right. We are live, and I'm actually using dual screens for the first time, which is a little wild.
Oh, wow.
Whoa!
So,
and
go ahead.
As our game was starting, I got an email from D&D Beyond saying that they've got a new app, so I am downloading it as we speak.
They're finally consolidating the app that manages all your books and the app that actually like lets you play, like manage characters, which is weird that they weren't together to begin with.
Right.
So anywho, so bear with me tonight because this is the most sandbox I think I've ever gone. And so I have like a bunch of stuff, but also if y'all go just somewhere random, we'll see what happens. Oh, whoops. My audio isn't coming out of the right place.
Oh
no! Whoops, there's the mouse.
Yes, D&D Beyond made me very sad because the new app requires iOS that my phone doesn't support.
Oh, your phone too old.
Dude,
it has aged out. My phone may be too old for the Android version. We'll see. His phone's newer than mine.
Maybe we'll get you a new phone for when you become the stay-at-home dad.
Okay.
It'll be a celebration. You have to catch all the good photos.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we get going,
you gotta show all the videos on it. So you gotta have it able to work real fast.
Yeah.
Before we get going too far, I do have a question for Zyra.
Oh, what? Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah. Wow, I got so much bigger there. How old is Zyra's sister?
$25. Her name is Anna.
Okay, and is that what's in your? Yes, good.
Yeah.
I've got like everyone's background stuff pulled up and like 50 tabs open and.
Yeah.
All right. So this is our first downtime and interlude session. You all have wrapped up the mystery that we were calling With a Rod of Iron, which turned out to be a vengeful student of the Blackthorn Academy who had failed out of his preferred magical track and was wreaking vengeance with a powerful Fey artifact of unusual design and unusual origin. And you all successfully managed to retrieve those items from him and use them to destroy what seemed to be a nascent gate between the worlds that was being born in his body, which is a little horrifying. But you successfully managed to stop him. You received your reward from Vela Blackthorn, both a sum of gold and some favorable consideration from her powerful family. Auric was also able to wrap up his one of his first solo PI cases for Mr. Pevins from Little Sylvain. And now you all find yourself in possession of a little bit of free time. Presumably your normal lives are going on in and around this. Presumably Zyra is getting back to some lecturing, teaching, writing on that book because your editor, they're not so rude as to like call. You can just sort of feel them. Just there's like a lingering presence of like, shouldn't you be writing? We'll assume that Auric and Cyrus are both continuing to do some freelance work on the side. And of course, Luz needs its faithful proprietress. Is that a word?
Maybe, I don't know. It works.
It feels like it should be, but it doesn't. Like the mouth feel is not quite there yet. Yeah, it's a lot of consonants. So you all have continued in your normal lives as you've recuperated from a fairly difficult battle that involved being torn between dimensions. One of you tried to open a powerful and perhaps sentient Fey Tome, and had some uncomfortably close encounters. And since then, the tome and the rod have been safely locked into the magically secure safe at Luz, unless you all choose to go get them. So, who would like to do some of their downtime first? I kind of figured you all would do shopping together.
Oh, shopping. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I just assumed that was built in. Like I gave you all some cash. I assume it's got to be spent somewhere.
I didn't even think about shopping.
Pokey got an oil change.
You said
Yeah.
bribe.
Let's see.
got some fresh gas and oil change.
All right. Well, Cyrus, it looks like you got volunteered.
Okay.
So which of your downtime activities would you like to engage in first? What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start with the getting in touch with Allan Blake and walking that depending. Well, I guess. Well, depending on how if he replies to the initial message, if I'm like walking the fine line between continuing to follow up with him versus hounding him, but to set up a conversation at Luz.
And so you're hoping to use Jace and his information resources to find him. Was that correct?
Yeah, and like if it seems like he's not like if he doesn't react to the first couple messages, that like there's this is like steady ping of like, hey, you got to do this thing. We're not leaving you alone.
So you reach out to Jace, you get him on the task. I would assume that any given time, he's doing a couple of different things for you. He is sort of your guy in the chair. And so he sets up several different ways of tracking Allan Blake, looking for any kind of electronic signature, any accounts that he signs into, any credit cards, if any of his phone numbers become active. And after a couple of days, Jace sends you a frustrated text message. I know this kid is out here somewhere. I've caught a few sign-ins, and he showed up on a couple of cameras, but he seems to have ditched most of his identifiers. He's being very hard to track.
Okay.
So you at least get the impression that he is still in town, but is laying low for obvious reasons. And also, I won't even make you roll a check for this. You would not be surprised to find out that someone is after him at this point. Vela was your point of contact with the Blackthorns, and you all were a bit ahead of the game. But it's very reasonable to assume that someone else has figured out what's going on at a high level in the Blackthorns and might not be as live and let live as Vela has been.
Okay.
All right. What is?
I'm gonna reach out to Gimbal to track him down and give him a message.
All right. So you go to your jar of wood chips where they sit next to your windowsill.
Yeah.
and you had to throw out the last thing of yogurt, but you've replaced it, and it's gotten nice and rank at this point, and so you're able to smear it across the wood chips and perform the ritual and leave the disgusting, congealed but magical mass outside your window that notifies Gimbal that you're in need of his services. A few hours later, you hear the of something scrabbling on your windowsill. Do you think you have a fire escape up to your windowsill?
Yeah.
It sounds large, whatever is scrabbling. Like last time it was a rat. This sounds substantially bigger than the rat.
Okay.
So you're gonna go open the window?
Yep.
All right. You almost reel backwards from a wave of horrifying scent washing over you as the window opens, and a fully dead, well, not fully, I suppose, a fully undead raccoon, like
Zombie raccoon.
it's still like going through the motions of like cleaning its face, but there's like a hole. It's just like touching bone. It's sort of horrifying.
Do you know Rainier?
Well, and these aren't skeletons. These are still meaty.
Fair. If it is done.
Oh, okay.
And there's a weird transition, and suddenly it stops imitating sort of the motions of raccoon life, and instead like plops down in a weirdly humanoid gesture and goes, "Hey, this is one of my favorite customers. What can I do for you?"
I got two things for you, Gimbal. I need you to find a kid for me.
Hey, now I don't get into that kind of thing.
Not taking him. I just need a message. I just want to have a conversation.
That I can do.
And then anything you can tell me about Tuatha and crows.
When you say Tuatha, you actually see this undead raccoon kind of go, "Mm-hmm. What do you want to know about them for?"
Their name came up a couple times in some weirdness we were looking into. I just want to know what we're dealing with.
You see the vacant eyes of the raccoon sort of look around nervously. Well, I guess I can tell you some. Well, first thing, they creep me out. Just full creep. That's the human word, right?
Yep.
There's a Fey word that's more like emanating magical aura of dread, but trying to adjust.
Creep's good.
They're what are those things called? They're like angry chickens, but like really big.
Buster.
Old angry chickens. Really, does that ring any bells? Yeah, those things. If the Fae are chickens, the Tuatha are dinosaurs.
Okay.
Bigger, scarier, and maybe dumber. But emphasis on the scarier. the courts don't really like anybody talking about them too much. They were the best I understand it, they were the Fey before the Fey.
Fair.
The real estate, literal and spiritual, I guess, in the human psyche, they used to occupy it. And the Fae are all, woo woo, look at my fancy illusions and look at how pretty I am. And the Tuatha were like, here's a club, go bathe it in your enemy's blood. Gut somebody on an altar for me. Real. They're supposed to be mostly gone now, though. It's really hard to kill anything that comes from fairy. The things have a tendency to like come back as long as that fundamental essence that they come from still exists. Those ideas, those stories, but the Tuatha have faded. And now they're, I don't know. Personally, I'm pretty sure they're gone, but also like not gonna risk it, you know.
Fair.
Geez, ravens?
Crows, yeah.
Crows? Are you sure you don't want to know about pigeons? I got lots of pigeons.
No. Specifically, not like crows in town. I mean, like any stories about Tuatha with crows or Fey with crows, I guess. But
I think there was something about crows and the humans. Yeah, it was what's his face? Bran? The spooky sorcerer king guy. Make a history check.
Spooky, scary sorcerers.
Want to use your cell phone to do it?
No.
Okay. No, I mean your.
oh, is this a check I can? Well, that wouldn't have passed the cell phone check anyway. So
Oh, okay.
Oh no.
What?
D&D Beyond is down. That is very poor timing.
well, I got a 7.
All right. Yeah, apparently we should have printed for tonight. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of checks, just little things. I'll pull up a roller on a separate app. That way we got something. What'd you get again?
Yeah, 7.
7. It kind of rings a bell. It's a little hard because you're discovering as a contemporary adult humanoid in Queensboro that a lot of the things you learned about history in school are not correct. And on a staggering scale, you seem to recall there was like a famous king that had a lot of association with like crows and ravens. And as this sort of runs through your head, Gimbal says, the only thing I can think of is bad. It's real bad. some of the Tuatha more scary, less scary, you know?
Yeah.
Like one guy was like, I don't know, like a god of the beach, you know, pretty chill. Crows are bad. They're about the least chill you can get. That sounds like the Babkatha. I'm gonna write that out because ridiculous. There's not a whole lot left about her, but she was
Okay.
like almost like a war god, I guess you would say. Although you humans have some baggage with that terminology, but
Sure.
she was the you know how when there's like big battles, lots of people die, you know, the animals start coming.
Gimble's voice is killing you.
Oh, I know. I really need to. Yeah, I had the pronunciation written down somewhere, and I have 7 pages of notes open. All of this, like, you know, Welsh, Irish, Celtic words are not intuitive at all to me. When there's going to be a battle, the scavenger birds they learn to anticipate the battles, and so you knew a battle was going to be bad if you saw, like, you know, big clouds of crows and ravens. That's what the Babkatha was known for.
Okay.
Yes, back now.
And the Gimbal Coon is looking around sort of nervously now and is like, so is that it?
I'll show him my picture of Blake. Be like, yeah, and then
the raccoon like holds your phone and like looks really intently with its dead glassy eyes, and he's like, all right, I got it.
Can't decide if I want to just go on him to locate him or go ahead and deliver the message.
I vote message.
Okay. Yeah, so tell him Cyrus says meet at Lou's just to talk. Next time, eat your grilled cheese.
All right. The Gimbal raccoon nods and scrabbles its way back out.
Right. Okay.
You hear it clanking down the fire escape, really like awkwardly, and you hear a few neighbors be like, "Hey, wait, what's the oh?" All right. So, what else do you want to do?
So I wasn't sure if I have if Cyrus has a way of like leaving messages for Mort, or when Mort kind of goes on one of his disappearing acts, if it's just wait for him to show back up on his own.
It's a little bit of each.
Okay.
Sometimes he just seems to come and go for a while, and honestly, he's been more gone than present for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mostly you've gotten you've gotten more like messages and emails and texts than in-person contact for quite a while now. But that's also just kind of how he is. But if something was sufficiently important, you think you could probably get his attention.
Okay. So I want to shoot him a message about that essentially is like, hey, follow or watching out for the Fey you sent me. We got mixed up in some Fey stuff well over my weight class. We need to talk. And then I'm gonna go to Sunday dinner.
All right. So Sunday dinner rolls around. And this is just sort of a, not like a hard and fast tradition, but something your family's done fairly regularly. Your father seems to have recuperated from his little bout with enchantment magic. He apologized when he snapped out of it, but doesn't seem to have suffered any lasting effects. And you all are able to sit down and enjoy dinner together. What do you think? What is multiple pages? What would Bria and Nathan prepare?
Oh, I think Nate's going through an experimental phase. So he's been pulling lots of stuff online and trying out different things. So he is. He's done something like it's like Southeast Asian with lots of veggies and spice, but like he can't even tell you like exactly what the dish is.
I'm gonna grab some dice and I'm gonna roll a chef's tool check for him.
That's a little scary.
There's a very aggressive sticker on my new dice. I went and bought a couple more sets because I felt weird having all of mine in storage.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is one of those stickers that I'm never fully going to get off of here.
Do you want me to roll the check?
Well, I need to get it open anyway. It's almost there. I'm not going to get it all the way off. I'm just going to get it past the bottom piece. I mean, I suppose this is like really good shoplifting protection.
Accurate.
All right. He got an 18.
Guys,
So this totally came together. You had some real doubts.
it was otro scaldo.
Okay.
It was definitely one of those dishes where like it's one of those recipes where the first part of it is like 15 pages of someone's life story. And some of the directions are kind of vague, but actually he improvised through the vagueness, and it actually turned out really well. Even your mom is surprised. She's like, she whispers like as he's like going to the kitchen to get something. She's like, I've been watching him work on this all day, and I definitely I've got to cancel our pizza order. Hold on. And you see her like messing with her phone under the table, and then just big smile when he comes back. So yeah, it's actually pretty tasty. Your parents kind of check in. They've sort of adjusted themselves to your unusual lifestyle. They've just sort of accepted a certain level of danger.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we had established this before. How did your parents know Mort?
I don't know.
Oh, all right then. I actually had a note on that, and I just remembered it. So actually, it was your mom who got to know Mort. There was a period where he was doing an investigation into some things that took an interesting historical turn, and he actually needed some help pulling up some very old records that were in the process of being digitized. And so that connected him with your mom, who became sort of a resource for him. And so they had kind of gotten an idea of what this lifestyle was going to be like beforehand.
Mhm.
So compared to the amount of danger you're in, they're a fairly high level of chill. So they ask about how your cases have been, how life has been. There are subtle inquiries towards significant others. Are there any particular topics you want to steer towards?
Yeah, I want to just kind of check in, like if they've heard from Mort. Be like, this is what I've been working on. Has had some interesting, odd connections, and I want to get his perspective on it.
Your parents kind of look at each other, and they do that thing where it's kind of like, oh, when did we hear? And then of course they check their phones. And your mom's saying, I know I heard from him recently. Oh yeah. He was asking how you were doing. It was like the afternoon of, and lo, my wife has returned with food. Sorry, I'm right next to the door. So when the lock is done and undone, it's just like, so yeah, she says, actually, he was asking how you were. He sent it the afternoon. It was, I guess we'll establish that Crown of Cold Iron started on a Monday.
Okay.
So it was actually Monday afternoon. It would have been not too long after you all had sort of fled the campus, closely pursued by Lieutenant Davis.
Is he a bear?
You all don't know what Lieutenant Davis is yet. He does have a stat sheet now, though. Not that I can get to it. So you gather that actually Mort has been more in communication with your parents recently. And do you have something on hand to make an insight check?
Yeah.
Site is back up now. It's just a little slow.
We're just sticking with 7s.
Ooh.
You don't get anything.
There's something weird about it, but you can't quite figure it out. Something strikes you as odd, but you can't quite name it.
Yeah.
Um,
I need to lie to my dice that I'm in combat. Like I roll really well in combat, and I roll nothing every out of combat check.
They've heard from him fairly recently, and you do gather they've been talking to him more than you have, which is a little odd.
Yeah. Do y'all know if he's in town, coming back through town?
You know how he is. Sometimes we don't even know he's in town until he tells us he's leaving, or just pops up out of nowhere, asks if we want to go to lunch. Always some weird new souvenir from who knows where.
Right.
Anything else?
I don't think I got anything else there.
Yeah, two different morts.
2 different words.
Yep. It's a very popular name in Queensboro, apparently. In Bay.
Yeah, I guess probably. I don't think there's anything else dinner wise. So otherwise, I'll probably be spending more time at Lou's in case, since I don't know if Blake will just show up. So I'll be hanging out there to try to keep an eye out for when he shows up. And
All right. Make just a general perception check.
$10.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Well, let's see. I told you that I was going to finally call Vela, but I was content to have that happen off screen. Well, unless there's something story important that happens, we'll just be content that clashing cultures are awkward.
Oh, no. I have a whole thing. We're doing
Oh,
this.
Yes!
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
I labeled this interlude Dating and Dragons.
Pour me more. I'm going to need it.
I was going to say, I'm about to pour myself some, so you might as well pop off.
Is this a PG-13 game, or am I going to try out my new spell on Vela off camera?
We'll just have a fade to black somewhere down the line. So do you actually want to call her up, or do you want to jump ahead to actually meeting up?
Oh,
I feel like Oric would try and text.
Oric will try to text probably. Yeah. So let's just jump ahead.
Yeah. If Oric is anything like his player, like phone calls.
You try to do it via text, and it's one of those where instant callback, no reply, instant callback, and she just answers the phone yes, and she just rattles off the car will be there to get you at 7.
Okay.
And it is wild. How does Oric prepare for a date with a fire wizard?
Honestly, I feel like he's probably not totally grasping that it's a date. So
he wears his best sweater vest.
he does wear his best sweater vest. which is just totally by happenstance the proper colors for the evocation school at Blackthorn Academy.
So you spiffy up a little bit, and it helps that your ring of seeming is a very handsome young man. You're a handsome young dragonborn, and it kind of correlates. So you are not sure what to expect from this hypothetical car showing up at 7. It's kind of a weird phrase.
Yeah.
What pulls up at about 6:59 is a small limousine. There is a driver who sees you out there and rolls down the window and says, no, he doesn't roll down the window. He hops out and says, Mr. Darlanton.
Hi. Yes, that's me.
And he pulls the door for you. This is probably your first time seeing a limo.
Yeah, it's good he opened the door because I was going to ride shotgun.
Yeah, it's just this like opulent, luxurious interior. You can see there's like a mini fridge back here. There's screens. Like all of the surfaces are like it's like someone asked for everything. Like, just give me the top of everything. There's some gentle music playing. Vela is not in there. So this driver is impeccable. His driving is swift, but never, jostles or seems to have any problems. And he very, very politely doesn't ask why he's picking you up in your neighborhood. And it very quickly navigates to one of the nicest parts of Riverside. This is right on the Vance River, and you immediately realize you step out and realize you are profoundly underdressed. All of the staff that you can see are like formal wear. Everything just looks, this is even cutting in through the aesthetic, translation issues. How are you feeling right at that moment?
There's a moment of, oh shit, followed immediately by, well, just own it. The richest people don't care what they look like.
Make a deception check.
Oh, deception. I was hoping you would say persuasion.
Persuasion will work.
All right. Well, so it's either a 19 deception or a 21 persuasion.
All right. You own it. And in fact, there's almost a regal quality that you don't see, obviously, from the inside. You just feel confident. But like as you walk through, there's like a large dining area, very tasteful decor. There's like polished marble in places, warm, soft lighting. You've not been in a ton of like Fey palaces and things, but you're catching the the parallel here. But as you walk through, you see people be like, "Oh, who is that?" Oh. You're projecting something as you walk through that strikes a weird chord with people, but in like a positive way.
Now they're all wearing sweater vests.
So yeah, all of these very fancy dressed people, they're just sitting there and they're like, is he a celebrity? Should we know who that is? And you are led by the maitre d' into a like fairly large back area through a set of double doors, and they open and you're out on like a patio or deck. Doesn't do it justice. It is a beautiful space, but it's also mostly dark. It's still early winter. It's pretty cold. It's pretty dark, even at like 7-ish. And for a second, you can't see very well. And then you see there's one table, and Vela is sitting there, and there is one candle lit on the table, and you can just catch like a glimpse of her, and she is wearing the evocation school colors, the black and red, but in a like beautiful evening dress, right on that line of like very like regal, very high class, but maybe pointing in the direction of risque, like right in that zone.
She has plans tonight, okay?
And she stands up as you come in, and the candle glints just enough, and you can see her smile. And then you hear her whisper something and do this. And suddenly, like hundreds of candles light all across this space. And your Arcana brain realizes like this is like a custom scaled up mega cantrip that you've never seen before. You wonder if she invented this herself. And as the lights come up, you realize there is a small string quartet that has been sitting in the dark. And they start to play, and it's something that it sort of sounds like if classical chamber music originated in Ireland. It's got sort of a folksy pastoral quality to it, but also very refined. And she pulls out your chair for you. Make an insight check. Yes, very much so.
A whole 10.
Oh no.
Yeah, this must be normal.
You still don't realize it's a date.
She's smiling. She sits down.
Beautiful dress, by the way. It's gorgeous.
Even with a 10 insight, you can't miss. There's a very large smile at that. And she says, "That's a lovely sweater vest."
Thanks.
And there's no sarcasm at all. Like she's seems very genuinely happy you're here, and you're seated. The quartet is playing, and your waiter comes and he introduces himself. Hello, my name is Jean. I will be your server for this evening. And he, I don't know anything about wine. He lists off several what most people would recognize as absurdly expensive vintages in a whole array. And Vela very authoritatively orders this, and this. And he says, "Very well," and disappears for a minute. And there's a little bit of awkward silence at first.
I excel at that.
like Vela's smiling, but it's kind of trying to figure out what to say. And then finally she's like, whatever ended up happening with all that strange magic that Blake was doing?
Oh, well, I mean, the short version is that we stopped him, and at the very least, the way that he was doing it will not, I mean, I should not say will not, because that's just
asking for it.
begging for divine smiting, but we've done what we can to make sure it won't happen anymore. I probably shouldn't say more just because, you know, we're alone out here apart from the beautiful string quartet, but you never know what ears might be hearing things.
As you talk, you realize there is a small menu on the table in front of you. And as you're sort of glancing over it, Jean comes back, and he has another server in tow who brings a set of glasses and all of the drinks and things. And he says, our specials tonight are the baked crest-feathered axebeak legs with a sweet citrus glaze, a wild berry wine marinated roasted dire boar chop, and the roasted Utoya sucata topped with blood distillation.
All right then.
Well, I must have the sirloin tartare if you can.
Very good, sir. And Vela orders the roasted Utoya sucata. And Jean disappears. And go ahead and make another insight check.
All right. Ooh, even better.
Oh my God.
An 8. We're just a couple of bros hanging out.
This kid.
So Vela is making there's weird body language that you're not sure how to interpret. So you all sort of talk back and forth. The food appears. The food is fantastic. It is maybe the best human food that you have experienced. It might be the best food you've experienced. There's a supernatural charm to Fey cuisine, but also you were not super high in the Fey hierarchy. You were
and in Unseelie, you just can't trust the food.
Yeah. So after a while, some of the awkwardness sort of comes off, and you all actually have a pretty good conversation. Vela seems to relax a little more. She asks about your impressions of the human world, the things that you've enjoyed, the things that you've liked. She asks some questions about some really specific, technical questions about your magic. She's very fascinated. Do you have any questions you want to ask her, or any topics you want to bring up?
Well, honestly, I want to know how she did that thing with the candles, because it's like the prestidigitation cantrip, but clearly so much bigger.
So she goes into a sort of convoluted explanation. It's the equivalent of asking a computer programmer to explain what their program does, and they start giving you the line by line software architecture.
The sorcerer to a wizard, it's like somebody who uses a computer versus somebody who builds computers.
I was gonna say, make an Arcana check.
It is cocked. It is cocked. I want you to know. It is cocked next to the 20. But
After a good full minute of explanation, you start to realize you have no idea what she's talking about. Her experience of magic and yours are so very different that you are literally not speaking the same language. So you have good conversation. Equally luxurious and ridiculous desserts are brought. And instead of going back to a car after dinner, Vela sort of leads you all off to just sort of walk along the river for a while. And it's really nice out here. With your sort of weird gold silver background, you have both fire and ice, so you probably don't get cold particularly much. You do notice that there is like a bubble of warmth that is following Vela. Probably, I mean, a solid like 5 to 10 feet out from her. And you notice because some of the snow like melts a little as you all travel down your way. And after a while, she kind of makes that sort of awkward smile again. One last chance on an insight check. This time roll with advantage.
Come
on,
on,
Roy.
Ron.
Oh my god, come on. That
A natural 1, which is a 3 total.
Roll with advantage this time.
so bad.
Okay, there we go. A 19.
He finally made
All right.
it. Yay!
So you have one last moment of like, oh, this was a cool time hanging out with friends. And you look over and it all kind of clicks for you.
Oh.
And even more so than just like you realize like, oh yes, this is a date. But more than that, you also realize that every time you've seen Vela up to this point has just been like radiating confidence. Like she is currently radiating heat, just like an aura of confidence that expands outside of her body. That has been the most distinguishing thing about her every time you've interacted with her. And there is a crack in the aura of confidence. You catch a glimpse. She seems like nervous, not like, oh, the ambush, finally it's time, but like genuinely out of her depths, not entirely sure how this is going or what's going on. And she makes kind of a rueful smile and says, this was kind of a lot, wasn't it?
Sorry, say again.
This was kind of a lot, wasn't it?
It was incredibly impressive.
That elicits a little smile. I can be a lot. I don't really know. I don't know what less than 200% looks like.
We're out a fair ways from the restaurant at this point, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Time for the most blatant and obvious move, probably, that Auric has ever tried to pull.
You expand your frill and breathe fire into the air.
Well, I was gonna say casually look up at the sky and then just, can you help me with what that constellation is?
Oh, so smooth, Auric.
So as you do this, she's sort of looking down. No, sorry, this is too good. Roll sleight of hand.
How's a natural 20?
Excellent. So as she said, after she says this and makes this sort of very vulnerable confession, she's very much like just sort of staring at her feet as she walks, kind of avoiding eye contact. and just smooth as anything, arm around, point up. And she 100% knows what you're doing, but it brings a smile regardless. And for a few moments, you all just sort of look at the stars, and she points out some constellations. And I think we'll just fade to black with that beautiful little scene.
Perfect.
You saved it.
I point out my favorite constellation, which is the bees. It's all the little dots together.
My favorite constellation, the bees.
The bees.
Make a perception check.
Okay. I have a +0, so it's going to be a natural roll of a 17.
All right.
All right. So it's a couple of days later, and you're going back and forth. You've actually gotten an email from a Nala Carolone, basically reaching out about a possible missing person, that she's been referred to you by Steve in this case, and is interested in your help. Steve had to go out of town, and so this case is sort of normally more what he covers, but basically he, after the Pevins thing, you've got a little more street cred. It's just sort of out in front of you, so you are sort of looking over this email, and you just about trip over a cat. And you're not too far from your apartment, and you've seen some cats around, but you've also noticed it's been so cold, they've not really been roaming the same way. And this cat was just sort of like, just sort of moving through the snow, seemingly without much concern. And you just about kick it, but it manages to sort of leap out of the way. And you notice a few more just over the next couple of days and weeks. And it's just a little weird.
Yeah. Who'd you say Nala, what was the last name?
The spelling is ridiculous. I will paste it. I could name them whatever I want, and I pick the most unpronounceable crazy things.
Caroline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the bells.
Just spelled very different.
All right. Is there anything else that Oric would like to do?
I mean, apart from that, it's just going to the schools and doing some investigation into, I don't even know where to start, but into my vision with the book, probably.
So make a history check with advantage.
Okay.
Oh, good.
A 5 and a 13.
Well, thankfully, the first one was easier. You specifically are able this time to recall some of the lore you know about Fey Tomes. There's a unique quality to Fey magic that if you imbue too much of it into something, more so than even other sorts of magic, which kind of has this tendency, if you imbue too much into an inanimate object, it has a tendency to gain sentience. Almost all really powerful Fey artifacts have some measure of will to them. And in fact, some of them are a different sort of Fey, but a Fey being nonetheless. And you imagine this is something like what you encountered in the book.
Okay.
Roll again for some of the other stuff.
Still with advantage or no?
Yeah. This is, we'll say the advantage is,
Advantage is good because 14 is better than a 2.
all right. We'll say that whether there was anything after your stargazing, Vela had a good time and is predisposed to let you use some of the academy resources. So you're looking up references and sort of trying to place this figure in relation to what you understand. And one thing you find that's very helpful is an old, very, very old tome. And actually, it seems like it's been recopied several times. There's some like archivist notes in the front that sort of imply that it goes back all the way to the original Blackthorn. And it is essentially a bestiary of the Fey.
I take exception at that name, but I understand.
And I was going to say, there is some racism. Let's be real. It's
Let's not.
it's a 1,500-year-old book about like the then current worst enemies of humanity at the time. There are some things that some things you're like, oh, I can't believe they figured that out, and some things you're like, whoa, come on. But one thing that's helpful is you gather that the Blackthorn or successors to the title and the name encountered a lot of powerful Fey. You actually recognize some of the figures are named incorrectly, some of the lore is wrong, but you recognize most of the Fey nobles represented here. And you combine this with your own sort of knowledge of Fey lore and history, and you pretty conclusively arrive at the thought that the woman you encountered was not Fey. Or at least is not any of the Fey nobles that you or the Blackthorns have ever heard of.
The woman that broke him out of the book.
So if Fey, somebody who is not connected with any of the Fey courts.
As best you can tell. And especially someone who you're not entirely sure what the power level you're talking about is, but the fact that this happened seemingly at a distance, and perhaps even across planes, suggests that this is not some no-name fifth tier like lesser court member. This would have to be someone with some juice behind them, and you have a pretty good idea of who those folks are, and this is not one of them.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Anything else for Oric?
I think that's probably it, yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I mean, I can go. Lexi's mainly just working at the bar, doing her duties. So.
All right. It's probably like late afternoon one day. It's been maybe a week or more into this sort of interlude, and you're prepping stuff, and Caleb just ran out, and he comes back in, and he says, hey, Lexi, there's one of those weird suit guys here again.
All right.
And you would recognize this. On more than one occasion, they're always easy to spot. You've gotten various offers, interest, sometimes like borderline threatening implications of realtors and companies and developers who are interested in the property of Luz, the establishment, sometimes the land, sometimes both. And they're usually pretty easy to spot because, I mean, let's just be real. This is a very working class neighborhood.
They don't fit in.
Yeah, like, and sure enough, you can kind of peek out one of the windows, and there is a very like tall, proper looking man in probably his mid to late 40s. He's wearing a sort of like a dark blue suit with what looks like maybe some silver running through it. And he's holding like one of those manila envelopes of papers and a briefcase. And he's just standing like 10 or 15 feet out past Luz, looking at the building, just kind of trying to look casual and absolutely failing. Like people are definitely like looking at him. You can see passersby like, what's up with that guy?
They're trying to walk around him. He's just standing there, not moving, like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Typical. So I decide to walk outside and ask him if he needs any help.
All right.
Just like every other
time. So you head out to meet this very out of place figure, and he's sort of looking about and sees you coming out and says, hello. I'm here to speak with the proprietress of this establishment.
That would be me. You're looking
excellent.
at it.
My name is Buchanan. I am with Cawthorn, Allen, Tarr, and Smith. We have a most interesting offer that we think that you would find intriguing, relating to the future disposition of your fine establishment here.
What you offering?
He sets down his briefcase and pops open the manila envelope, pulls out a big sheaf of papers, and just rattles off some numbers. It is a lot of money. It's probably on the higher end of offers that you've received, especially because it also includes some there's some like percentages in there of even of like future income off of the space, and it's a very nice offer, but it is in fact an offer to buy out Luz.
Honey, how much do you know about the history of this property?
Well, this is a fine and storied location, and we believe that with some of our economic and advertising resources placed behind it, we believe that we could make this establishment the cornerstone of a revitalization of this neighborhood. All it would take is for you to.
Sorry, honey. Let me clarify that. What do you know about how this building has been sold from person to person? The buyer history of this property.
Oh, yes. And he clicks open the briefcase and pulls out like another manila envelope. And he starts rattling off back through a couple of like previous owners and names some of the different like establishments that it's been.
So Lexi looks through it and she points to one in particular. She goes, honey, did you know that the reason that it went from this development company back to the owner is because they paid her to take it back?
I was not aware.
Honey, if you want to give me money to sell this building to you, that is all, you're more than welcome to, but I would like to see you try, because it won't budge.
He looks like really weirdly uncomfortable. So I should. What should I tell?
Well, if you want to make it simple, you can just tell them that I said no. But I'll be completely frank with you, honey. If the building doesn't want to be sold to you, then it will not let you do anything to it. There was one week, and I swear that it sometimes has a mind of its own, but I swear 2 weeks we had to close. It was flu and Christmas at the same time. It was terrible. And this was when Lou was still running things. And let me tell you what. We came back and every single knob on the hardware on the bathroom cabinet was different. It got bored, honey. Are you prepared to deal with a building that gets bored? It's because I'm getting the Dolly Parton backs. My Southern Appalachia is just coming out.
He's just totally flustered. He is not prepared for this. So you successfully sort of fend this guy off. Make a perception check.
Oh, nope, move. I don't want drop-down menus. Stop it. 10.
As he rounds the corner to sort of like awkwardly walk away, you catch him like trip over something, but you don't see what it is. All right. So it's a little bit later, and you do notice recently there's been a local brewery that you've actually really gotten to know and enjoy called Fickle Spirits, and they've always been decent, but in like the last 6 months or so, their most recent like small batch has been really, really, really popular. Like they've always been like a decent beer, and you know they're local, and you know for various reasons, you know you were like we'll keep them on. They have been fantastic the last 6 months. It's been like very, very highly requested, a lot of word of mouth. The most recent run has been called The Brave and the Kobold. And you realize you actually names. So many the names. One day I'll send you all the unredacted version just so you can see how ridiculous this is. You hear Craig, who has been sort of doing some inventory, and he says, "Hey, Lexi, we haven't seen the Fickle Spirits guys this month."
Huh. Well, we may wanna reach out, see what's going on.
All right.
So Lexi decides to take a look around the room, and thankfully there's not a ton of customers going everywhere. So she can take a moment to head upstairs so that she can call Fickle Spirits and just say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Make another perception check.
Okay, 18.
You're almost like up your stairs to your office, and your brain sort of replays your your path through the bar and up, and you realize out of the corner of your eye, one of the booths looked more brightly lit than usual, and it caught your attention for a second, and you realize that a plainclothes Lieutenant Davis was sitting there. And it suddenly clicks, like, you think maybe you've seen him a couple of times. Like, never like actually like, coming and saying anything, but just has been here a couple of times over the last couple weeks. So you've got a number for Fickle Brewers. And you give them a call, and it rings a couple of times, and then you get it's strange. It's almost like a disconnect notification, but it seems like weirdly garbled, like you're hearing it from like a distance, and you hear sort of the little tone, and then a voice that's like, click.
Well, so Lexi knows that it's probably not worth it to try and call again, but that maybe she should probably go over to Fickle Spirits, whether that's today or the next day, so that she can go during non-rush hours, just to see what's going on. If she needs to make an in-person visit to say, hey guys, we've given you money, please fulfill your end of the bargain. Unless you're going to renegotiate your contract on us, in which case we're not going to be very happy with you because, we signed a contract.
All right. Anything else you want to do?
I guess I could go say hi to Lieutenant Davis. Wasn't expecting to see him there.
All right. So as you make your way back down, you see that, yes, this is in fact Lieutenant Davis, sort of tucked into this corner here. Why do I keep doing this to myself?
And you said it seemed like the booth was glowing.
As you get closer, you feel like maybe it was a trick of the light.
Happens a lot in this building.
It was weird. It's the first time that you've really, it's only the second time that you've noticed him in an interaction. And the last time he was wearing the QPD uniform with his Solinist stole over it. You're sort of surprised that you haven't noticed him before, because he's doing a better job than the lawyer outside, but he's kind of has a similar blending issue.
Blending issue.
Some of it is his clothing. He's like business casual, but it looks immaculate. Like
that polo has been pressed.
Yes, polo is exactly what I was thinking. It's very much like the polo khakis. It looks perfect. And actually,
it's not even a second lent.
You even catch a couple of your female patrons who are sort of starting to get there a little early for dinner. You've caught a few of them kind of going.
Well done.
He does not have the stole on him. You do see he's just sort of absentmindedly holding a little silver like sun necklace. I mean, it's not like a giant amulet, but you do recognize it's like it seems like his holy symbol in miniature. But he's not like casting a spell. He's just, it seems like an absent-minded tick. And he sees you come over and make an insight check.
$17.
All right. You're able to see several different emotions go across his face really quickly. There's a quick flash of sort of genuine happiness. There's a small amount of like awkward embarrassment directly after, like one led to the other, and then you can almost watch as like a form of professional mode kicks on, and he sort of schools his features, and he looks up at you, approach, and says, Miss Farino, you have a lovely establishment.
Well, thank you. Has he ordered food yet, or is he holding a menu or a drink? What does he have on the table?
He has actually been working his way through one of your last pours of the Brave and the Kobold,
Okay.
and seems to be enjoying it. But he's definitely taking it slow. He's also got like a water, and is working his way through some French fries, and he says, actually there was I was hoping to catch you. There was something I wanted to ask you about.
All right. So I go, he's in a booth. So I go and I slide, kind of casually slide, like it's, we're here for business kind of chat. Sit down across from him and, all right, what you want?
He reaches down into the booth next to him and pulls out a little folder, and he pulls out a couple of like newspaper clippings, and he sort of spreads them out on the table in front of you, and several of them seem to be well, not several, all of them seem to be fires. They're reports on either a fire was put out here, or fire consumed such and such in the middle of da, da, da. Give me your best of either just a raw intelligence, or give me a raw, not raw, give me either your best of investigation or perception.
They're the same. 19, investigation.
All right. You very quickly notice all of the fires seem to have happened either to like temples or shrines or places of worship. And actually with that roll, you even specifically notice they all seem to be centered on the groups known as Pathers and the group known as Spiritualists. And he looks really awkward and says, I really shouldn't be here, but I'm concerned. And I'm also not dumb.
That's good.
We showed up to the Kent building. There was unusual magical activity. Something happened and everyone fell asleep. Some people woke up with injuries, but most everyone woke up okay. Dr. Moore reappeared, but when I woke up, you were already awake, and so were the people with you. I'm not drawing any official connections between these points of information, and I hope you appreciate that. And he points to one of the articles and he says, what do you see here?
So I take a further look at the article. But as I do that, because this is just how Lexi works, I reach up my hand and I snap my fingers twice, and that is a signal to the boys in the back to bring me my own plate of fries. Because I need my thinking food.
It's like less than 45 seconds, and Caleb is there with a fresh, like just steaming fresh, but not like so hot you're gonna have to wait too long. Just like perfect, crispy, fresh, steaming fries. And they just like whoosh onto the table. And Davis looks impressed. He's like,
they know what I like. We work together.
So looking more closely, it takes you a second to figure out what he's pointing to, but then it sort of hits as you see him sitting there and he keeps playing with his necklace. All of these are other modern humanoid faiths. Between the Pathers, the Spiritualists, and the Solonists, that's the majority of folks in town. That'd be the majority of the religious communities. There's several like smaller groups. There's been a resurgence in certain ancient religions, but that's the majority of it. You notice that all the attacks have involved fire, and you also notice that no Solinist temples, shrines, institutions seem to have been targeted at all.
Well, honey, looks like something's missing.
I had the same thought, and I don't think I'm the only one who's had it. When you're the only folks in town who have not been dealing with this, and you have a certain set of, we might say, iconography and aesthetics associated with your faith, people start drawing untoward conclusions.
Yeah.
I can't officially be part of an investigation into this for obvious reasons. But something doesn't feel right here. There are, of course, extreme elements in any group, but this doesn't seem consistent. I think someone is trying to point this back to us, but even if it's not someone faking this, I still hope for it to be dealt with.
So you're thinking it's less of an extremist who's angry and more of somebody who's trying to play a I need words, twisted game of setup, I guess. That's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Is that internal affairs in the sense of like the police organization, or like internal affairs within
The religion.
the religion?
Yeah, I was about to ask that too. It's like, who's internal affairs?
It would be like, is there an internal affairs in like the Solonists? But I don't know if Lexi would think of that, but that anyway.
Well, and he would probably expound on that a little more and say there are certainly elements within the faith that have been agitated. It's not just the Fey, but the Fey are in some ways a tipping point of change and unusual circumstances. But this doesn't feel like them. While staying within the bounds of both my religious practices and my official duties, I've done my best to keep an eye on those sorts of things. And this seemed to come out of nowhere. And to be honest, anybody can start a fire. Only a handful, even within the Solonists, can start magical fire, and most of them are accounted for. I can't ask anything of you in an official capacity, but
Give me everything you got, sweetheart, and we'll look into what we can find.
he looks relieved and pulls out a couple more folders and seems to have been very well prepared for that question. You see several different, it's all like publicly available information, but it's been organized with like a meticulous investigator's approach.
Right.
And you find all of the relevant news articles. You see some publicly available like reports about the fires, about the damages, statements from the pathers and the spiritualists. There's also some information about like internal Solinist structure of like who is in charge of things, both on paper, and there's a little bit of commentary of like how things actually work. But it's a pretty comprehensive folder that he's handed you.
A question of clarification. I don't know if this would be something that Lexi would have to ask him or it would be common knowledge, but you know, he wore, when I first met him, he wore the stole.
Mm-hmm.
So is he like a chaplain with the police force? Like, or is that just like a dual, does he have a dual role, or just those are both two, you know, he has his job and then he's like, I don't know, a lay person or something. He's not what his official capacity is within the religion.
Make a history check.
Okay.
This should be fairly low.
Well, 12.
All right. 12 gets you there.
right.
You actually have heard of, I mean, you've heard of Lieutenant Davis for several reasons. You've had sort of less substantial now, but you've had previous affiliation with Solonists before, and so there's a lot of sort of pride specifically in him, but also like you've just kind of heard around the place, he is a true like miraculously empowered cleric. one of only like maybe a couple dozen for the whole city. And so he is officially like the divine magic person with the special investigations group. So when he wears the stole, like he really is sort of performing both roles. He is there to heal people, to investigate divine magic, things like that.
Okay. That does kind of answer what I was thinking. Yeah, that he wasn't just wearing the stole because like he loves his religion. Because that was my first thought. I was like,
yeah. Well, and with your background, you would definitely know like the sort of symbol that he's holding is very common. Some people get little like sun tattoos in various places, but yeah, that would be wild.
yeah.
It'd be the difference between a cross necklace and a stole, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right. For just a second, it seems like he wants to say something else. And then he sort of talks him out of it and says, thanks for looking into this. You were the only point of contact that I had. But I'd be glad to compensate you and your friends if you can figure out what's happening here and hopefully head it off before something worse happens.
Yeah. I pull out my business card from my back wallet and pass it over to him and say, and also, you know how to find me. You can leave me a message here at Lou's. If I'm not here, the boys will let me know to come find you.
He pockets the card and sort of gives a polite nod, bow, and takes his leave.
Okay. Lexi takes the files that he's given her and takes them upstairs. She looks at the safe, but decides that the filing cabinet that has a basic key on it is probably a smarter bet rather than putting it up next to all these magical objects.
The safe is still like glimmering just a little bit when you look at it.
Of course.
Is there anything else you want to do?
Nope, that's it.
All right. I'm realizing that we are really taking a while. And I don't want to give Zyra short shift, and I don't want to like run us super late. Would you all like to go ahead and do your shopping trip together?
I mean, I don't even know what I want, so.
Yeah.
What does shopping look like in your world?
So mundane things, you mostly know where to lay hands on those. All of you make a history or arcana check.
Logical.
All right then.
6.
17.
Says the human.
17.
9.
All right. So Cyrus, you have sort of different resources. Like you've been able to lay your hands on a lot of, you're more looking for like techie gadgets usually. You've not had much cause to think about magical items. But Zyra and Auric, you've both heard rumors and maybe have checked them out that there's maybe a few places around town that are not necessarily above board in selling some magical goods, which are normally tightly regulated, as you all discovered in the last arc. But there's a handful of places out there. And the one in town that most folks go to is it's over in Vert, and it's called, those are names of people, these are places. It is called, there we go, Midsum Pawn and Fine Goods. And it is a little pawn shop over in Vert, which supposedly is more than it looks like.
Cool. Shall we? Can we get together at Lou's and then head over?
All right. It's actually fairly close to Lou's.
So
And it has a very obnoxious vibe. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of like neon sort of like framing the overhang. And there is a neon like mascot, and it seems to be a braying donkey. And it's one of those like 2-part signs where like part flickers on and part goes off, and it looks like it's going.
Okay. A brain donkey was.
It definitely gives a sketchy vibe. You feel sort of oily, just like getting too close. There's like bars over all the windows, and you can see through the bars. There's just so much random stuff in this window. There's like baseball gloves and t-shirts and used appliances and like little knickknacks and lamps and
musical instruments, jewelry.
Yeah, just every weird thing, seemingly with no organization. And you push in, and the bell, the ding, the inside. Sometimes you walk into a place and you're just like, this place hasn't been updated since the 70s. That is mid-some, all the way down to like it smells like people still smoke inside here vibe. And there is an overwhelming array of items on these huge like tiered shelves, almost floor to ceiling along the walls, and then like shorter shelves running in between. Thousands of items, all seemingly random. There's a door in the back, and there's a counter in front of it with more random knickknacks behind glass. And there is an equally gross and non-updated looking individual hanging out behind the counter. He seems to be actively sipping a beer, not like a nice beer, like a
Natty Light.
Yeah, like, and it's like the early afternoon, and you get the impression it's not his first one. He's literally wearing like a white tank top. And there's some definite like paunch straining the tank top. You can't see the lower half of him under the counter. We can also see he's got like thick salt and pepper hair, like body hair down both arms up to the shoulders, poofing out again right here. And he has kind of like a sleazy face. He's got hair cut short, and he just kind of yeah. And that is what Lexi sees. And that for a second is what Zyra and Cyrus see. But Auric, you see that, and it almost instantly like wavers, and this guy has a giant donkey head. He has a giant gray donkey head. And he's just
Right?
chilling. What?
Still has a paunch though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can actually see like the rest of him still looks the same. It's not like a full body illusion. It's only covering from here to here. And it takes a second, and for Zyra and Cyrus, you're kind of like looking through like heat distortion, and then it resolves. And you're like, oh, giant donkey head. Lexi, you see it longer than anyone else. You get fairly close, and then something almost like sparks near your eyes. There's just like a bright light for a second, and then you can see through the illusion.
Holy
Donkey head
shit.
guy.
Don't be rude.
Hey, you're not too much to look at either, huh?
Sorry, sir. I wasn't expecting you to change mid glance.
He looks at you weird and then kind of squints and leans in and is like he kind of is looking at you all, and he looks at Auric and sort of like locks in like, are they like on the level?
On the level, sure. What exactly they are, I don't know.
Better question. You got cash?
Yes.
That we have.
Plink.
All right. You see him like press a button and you hear the door. And it's not like suddenly like the shelves flip over or anything. But he looks at you all and says, all right, so this is your first time here, right?
You would probably remember us, right, man?
Hey, I get all types. You're only like the fifth weirdest group I've seen today.
We need to work on that.
I was gonna say somehow I'm not surprised.
One group had a little angry gnome guy that talks like a wolf, big lion guy, some fancy elf lady. It's been a whole thing. There they are. So everybody make a perception check.
Oh, goody. I have nothing to perception. 16 works.
What's my perception modifier?
7.
I can't do that math. What is 7 plus 18?
25.
Jeez.
I just roll on the digit.
Whoa.
Okay.
A21.
All right. So now that you all have all sort of seen through the proprietor here, you notice that some of the items on the shelves have the same haziness. And you realize there seem to be localized illusions on multiple places on all of these shelves. And you notice those actually correlate with like weirdly higher prices. Like there's like a row of bags of all different sorts. There's like a backpack, and then there's like a purse, and there's like a zip string bag, and they're all like relatively low. I mean, they're used bags. And then one of them, a like satchel, like messenger bag, is suddenly 600 gold marks. Like literally infinitely more than anyone would pay for that. You see a bunch of kitschy little like porcelain figurines, and there's one of like a dancing crow with like a top hat and a cane, and it is 300 gold marks. You see a baseball glove marked for 300 gold marks. You see what looks like a there's a little thing right in front of you all under the glass of like rings, and there's a couple of really awful, gaudy like class rings, and one of them is 300, one is 200, and one is 250. And you realize, like looking around, there are all of these weirdly priced items. So, what kind of things are y'all looking for? Scratches his chin.
Well, what can you tell me about these rings here?
A discerning customer. Right to the good stuff. He undoes it from the back and sets them out, and he reaches and he pulls one up, and as soon as it comes off of the sort of velvet tuck thing that it's in, you see the illusion drop. And the first one you look at is a golden ring that has a fairly simple design. Just there's subtle runes carved along the outer edge of it. He says, let's see, this one here is it's a ring of jumping, makes you jump real far real good. Let's see, this one, man, I hope D&D Beyond is working better now.
Fingers crossed.
Didn't even occur to me that I needed to like copy every item description.
Who would have thunk?
Oh, this one's fancy. This one, it has like clouds on it. He says, this one a couple times a day lets you make a cloud around yourself. What else we got? This one. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This one makes you real quiet. Yeah, if you wear this ring once a day, you can be like real sneaky, and you can make everything around you go. And he pulls it off and goes, "Oh yeah, sorry." This one makes an area of silence, and it makes it hard for people to make any noise around you. I think that's all the rings.
Wait, so the second one makes clouds?
Yep, there's jumping, obscuring, and then the hushed ring.
Ring of obscuring, okay.
What's the glove in the bag?
He says, "Oh yeah, this is a good one." Oh man, I'm going to be feeling gimbal tomorrow. He says, "Oh yeah, this is a real good one," and he pulls it out, and the sort of satchel, the messenger bag, it doesn't actually change. It still looks the same. He says, "Yeah, I know a guy," and he holds it up and says, "Somebody stick your arm in here." Yeah, don't worry, just do it.
Stick my arm out.
It goes all, like your arm can go all the way down to the shoulder, and you don't seemingly find the bottom of it. He says, classic bag of holding, updated for a new age. That one is 600 gold marks.
In the glove?
In the glove, he picks it up and it comes off, and it looks like a fingerless glove, but of like a sturdy leather. And there's some kind of rune inscribed across the center of it. And he says, "Yeah, this is a glove of missile catching." Yeah, I thought the baseball glove thing would be funny. suppose it would make you real good at baseball. I don't know why anybody cares, but for some reason, D&D Beyond corrected it to the gnome of missile catching. Oops,
I like that
scared.
just as much.
And then the dancing crow?
The crow, he pulls it up, and the sort of kitschy like of it fades, and it's actually this it's one of the older looking things you see in here. It actually kind of looks like a museum piece. Zyra, make a history check.
Natural what?
+3.
Yeah, well, it's a 23. Natural 20.
You very easily identify this as being like 1500 plus years old. This is 100% like a cultural artifact in this pawn shop.
Museum belongs in the museum.
Yes.
Okay.
But he says, oh yeah, this is use the magic and it makes a bird.
Makes the bird.
Yeah. I guess I can use the chart and show you. He like very sort of rudely like taps the bird's head really hard. It's like, hey, wake up. And the stone of it sort of slowly unfolds, and it goes from looking like a crude carving to looking like a real like crow or raven, and it sort of stretches its wings out and sort of comes into focus, and then it's just a real crow flapping in place, and the edges of its wings are sort of a black wisping smoke. He says, yeah, it's real good for if you got like a message you want to send, if you need something to like look around.
How long does it last?
It can be a raven for up to 12 hours, and you can use it once every 2 days. And while it's a raven, you can use it to cast the animal messenger spell at will. If you wanted to look it up, it is a figurine of wondrous power, and it's the silver raven. Other items, there is a very expensive trapper keeper.
Man, take me back to my childhood.
And like a pocket knife.
Tell me about the journal.
So there's not, it's just like some paper in it. It's very much like one of those kids' school supplies, like a 3-ring binder in the zipper. But there's a piece of paper in there, and there's only there's only 3 there's only 3 pages when you open it. He says, if you're looking for something, you write it down on here, and it'll help you find it.
Okay. And the
Okay. Pocket knife.
The pocket knife, I'll just read this one because it's complicated. This is called the Glass Carver. It is a magic dagger. While you are holding it, there's no attunement though. While you are holding it, you can use an action to cut a straight line up to 1 foot long into a piece of non-magical glass no more than 1 inch thick. Each line emits a faint glow, allowing you to see any lines you've made. Making these lines requires you to focus as if concentrating on a spell. Your concentration ends early, blah, blah, blah. Concentration ends, prepares, and whatever. If you connect these lines to form a cutout shape in the glass, you can make a sleight of hand check. And if you succeed, that section silently comes out. And when you're done, you can replace it and it will undo any marks that it was taken out.
Interesting.
Just to put the list in front of y'all. And we can come back and finalize shopping next time and dig into some of Zyra's things.
Sarah might have more answers about what we could be talking about later.
Yeah. So think about anything that maybe caught your interest, anything you want to follow up more on. And if there's something specific, feel free to use the messenger chat to like talk that out and see what you all would want to do first. My plan is to kind of keep us in vaguely sandbox mode. So there's not going to be like, if you start doing this, everything else goes away. But if you give an idea of what you're interested in, it'll help me to like prep the right things and not get caught off guard.
Yep.
Right.
All right. I'm going to cut off our stream. Bye, Internet.